This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. This is another one of these videos where I talk about my 5 favourite things in a certain category. And today, we're looking at my 5 favourite Beatles songs. And please don't take this list as gospel, because tomorrow it will probably all be different. It was the hardest thing in the world coming up with 5 choices for this particular list. Probably the hardest one I've done. First of all, a little bit of history though. Yes, I'm old enough to remember the Beatles. I was born the same year that Sgt. Pepper came out, but, you know, I was 3 years old when the Beatles called it a day, so I don't really remember them, you know, as part of my growing up. What really got me into the Beatles was, does anyone else remember the Stars on 45 EPs from the early 80s, which were basically cover version kind of medleys, segues of, you know, famous artists that did big business in the hit parade, as we called it back then. And the first one of these that came out was like a very scarily accurate you know, kind of compilation of Beatles songs. I think that it was about 7 minutes long, the whole thing, if you got the 12-inch single version of it. And I loved that. So, of course, then I went on to get some Beatles compilation albums, and then went on from that to, you know, getting the individual studio albums and so on. And that's kind of the path that led me to loving the Beatles. Anyway, as I say, today we're talking about my 5 favourite Beatles tracks, beginning with
Penny Lane.
Yeah, I mean, this one, whichever way I compiled this list, this song has to be on it. It's Paul McCartney basically paying homage to his childhood days in Liverpool. And there's a fantastic Howard Goodall documentary on the songwriting kind of artistry of Lennon and McCartney, which I'll link to in the description box below. And that documentary mentions this song at some length. I already knew I loved the song before I saw that documentary, but it wasn't until I saw it that I realised just how complex a song this is. And that is what I love about any kind of music, but especially the Beatles. Often you don't notice the complexity, you don't notice the artistry involved. It's just a catchy little tune that you know, kind of gives you a melody that you can hum or whistle for the rest of the day. But it's really beautifully, cleverly written. And that's just the chord sequence, you know. You know, it's the witty, funny, bittersweet, joyful, and utterly, I think, life-affirming lyrics, and the whole nature of the song that just endear it to me. And as I say, I couldn't do a list of Beatles songs without this one on it, so that's why it's on the list. Next.
While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Indeed, the first of 2 George Harrison songs on this list. I mean, how could I not choose this one? I mean, obviously we know that it features some stellar guitar work by a certain Mr. Clapton. Watch out for a solo analysis of that coming soon on the channel, by the way. But again, it's chord sequences that always, you know, kind of strike a chord with me, if you'll excuse the pun. I love a nice chord sequence. I'm a sucker for it, and you don't get much nicer and much more just endearing than the chord sequence on this song. It's a fantastic example, if you want the technical jargon, of modal interchange. And a bit more technical jargon there is also something in there called the Picardy third, which basically means when you change from a minor key to a major key. It's a fantastically written song. I have no idea what the lyrics are about, but I don't care. It just conjures up all kinds of images of, you know, beautiful, kind of mournful guitar playing. You know, it's just such an expressive song. It's like, you know, maybe a poem that you don't really kind of understand literally, but you understand it on a you know, a some kind of subconscious level. It's got such a haunting melody as well over that beautiful chord sequence, so much so that it does actually stand up as an instrumental, without any of the lyrics in there. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but, the sort of neoclassical shredder guy, Vinnie Moore, he did a version of this, an instrumental version on his Time Odyssey album that's surprisingly good, it has to be said. So go and check it out. But yeah, it's just such an uplifting and beautiful song. That change from minor to major, it's one of those things that, it makes the hairs on the back of your arm stand up. It's fantastic, and that's why it's on the list. Next.
Norwegian Wood.
Yeah, now this one is, it's got a melody to it that is both unusual and unique, but somehow familiar. It's one of those things that you feel like the first time you heard it, that you hear it, you feel like you recognise it, which is a really, really clever thing for any composer to come up with, to make a melody sound like it's just always been there, make it sound timeless, really, and that's what we've got here. I was talking about chord sequences on the last couple of songs, but the odd thing about this is, apart from the bridge section, where it does go off on, a few different chord changes, but the main sort of recognisable part of this song is all essentially played around a single chord, a D. Well, it's actually an E because you're capoed at the second fret, but it's all just based around a single chord. And this is, around about the time when the Beatles were starting to get the sort of Eastern Indian influence coming in, and it's got a touch of that sort of raga kind of thing going on. And obviously we've got George just fumbling his way around very successfully on a sitar on here. That's what he described it as himself. He just picked up the sitar and just had a go at knocking out the melody for the song, and one take apparently, and it's there. And I think it was probably the first time I ever heard the sitar. It's just such a fantastic expression of, example rather, of how the Beatles just had this knack for producing, insanely good melodies that felt like you'd known them all your life, and, that were timeless. So again, that's why Norwegian Wood is on the list. Next.
And Your Bird Can Sing.
Again, we're talking here about a knack for, crafting a perfect melody. And again, how can you describe this as anything other than that? And George Harrison is on absolutely stellar form here. There is sort of a rather funny story. Well, it was funny when I read it. An interview with Joe Walsh in Guitar Player magazine many, many years ago, where in the early days of the James Gang, they used to do, And Your Bird Can Sing. And, Joe kind of figured out that lead guitar part that sort of bubbles all the way through the tune, and figured out how to play it on its own. He said, "This is absolutely, kind of a bugger to play. Frankly, it's really, really difficult." And then years later, he was hanging out with Ringo Starr and said, "How did George come up with that lead guitar part for And Your Bird Can Sing?" He said, "Oh, he didn't. He just overdubbed two different parts." And he said, "What? Am I the only person on the planet who can play this thing all at once?" But such an achievement. Well, if you don't know the song, then listen to it. I'll link to all of these songs down in the description, obviously, so go and check it out. It's a fantastic, as I said, fantastic guitar work, fantastic melody that goes all the way through the song. Everything about it for me is just perfection. The vocal harmonies, and it's not just okay, let's harmonise the vocals. It's where the harmonies come in to emphasise this line or to emphasise that line. It's a fantastically arranged, fantastically written, brilliant song, fantastic melody, brilliant guitar work. What else can I say? That's why it's on the list. Next.
Something.
Yeah, the second George Harrison song on the list. Pattie Boyd must hold some kind of record, because I can't think of anybody else who's had as many classic rock songs written about her. Pattie was George's wife at the time, and he wrote this song about her. And then when she left him for Eric Clapton wrote Layla and Wonderful Tonight and Old Love about Pattie. So it's a fantastic song. It starts off with that sort of voice leading kind of thing where you're getting a major chord, then the root drops down to major seventh, then down to a dominant seventh. You know, in that respect, you're not a million miles away from My Way, which would already make it, you know, kind of a fairly sort of above average chord sequence, shall we say, in terms of its cleverness that it's using. But then it goes off on all kinds of, you know, kind of intricate key changes and modulations and stuff that, again, I keep coming back to this thing here. You don't notice the cleverness. You don't notice the artistry involved until you start picking it apart and thinking, oh, that's clever. I didn't notice that key change there. For me, it's like the difference between you'll get some big Shakespearean actor with all big gestures and booming voice and, you know, kind of overacting, chewing the scenery, I believe they call it in the theatre trade. And then you watch someone like Al Pacino in The Godfather, who's just acting his socks off, but you don't notice it. It's just such a controlled, subtle performance, and that is, you know, the sort of the musical equivalent on this and many other Beatles songs. Again, beautiful melody, you know, superbly crafted song, expertly written, arranged, great performances all round, and that is why that one is on the list. So there you go, folks. Those are my 5 favourite guitar Beatles performances at the moment. Ask me again tomorrow, and there's probably going to be some shuffling around and things get relegated and other things get promoted, but the core of it is what it is, and I think I'll stand by this list for now anyway. If you have 5 Beatles performances that you enjoy, then, you know, what are yours? You know, let me know down in the comments section below, and with 1 or 2 lines about why, if you can be bothered putting it. As I say, check out that Howard Goodall documentary. I'll link to that in the description as well. It's well worth an hour of your time. Very interesting delivery, and you might just learn something about some of your favourite songs that you didn't already know. And that is pretty much it for today, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it reasonably entertaining. That is, after all, the point of doing all of this. So if you have, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not give me a like while you're at it? Don't forget the live stream on Friday. You know what that's all about, 5 PM UK time. Every Friday we sit around and have a beer and a chat about things music and guitar related. It's a fantastic way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.